Okay, so the first thing, I'm going to go through the first 4 chapters, actually, instead of 5, because at chapter 5 on Sarah Robbins' book, it starts with power prospecting and the power series, like the power chapters. So I wanted to leave that all together. So we're going to go through chapters 1 through 4 and kind of hit the high points and go from there. But I want to keep it at 35 minutes. And let me take a second to regroup, make sure I'm looking at the right page. Make sure I'm not reading you my personal notes from my planning I did today. Okay. Okay, so for the first chapter, she says, demystifying the big build. And can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So really it is, how do you start? And what I love about it is she points out some things that she learned and that really I thought were super helpful. So the first one is, sorry, someone's texting me saying they can't get in. The first one is she thinks that persistence is key. And I think that really persistence, that daily work, weekly work, monthly work, just keeping going. The next one was commitment to personal and professional development. And she mentions this multiple times over the first 4 chapters. So I think that we should take a hint. And she says she spent 2 years failing forward. She spent 2 years where she was the lowest earner in the company, even though she was the second ambassador to join. And she spent time, she started reading network marketing books and listening to tapes. She turned her car into a university where she was listening to CDs. And so I think that's something that we need to make time for. And it may not be considered revenue generating activity, but John Maxwell has a ton of books and a ton of CDs. And one of the things he talks about is the law of the lid, and that your team cannot grow higher than you are. And so if there are weaknesses that we as leaders have, our team will not grow past those. So we need to make sure that we are focusing on personal development. Sarah Marble is huge on this. She posted a video, I think right after convention, and I think maybe Taryn, you've posted it, but it's, I've just joined What Do I Do Now? And she goes through and really goes through the old startup kit, but she talks about 5 books that she suggests reading. Orrin Woodward, John Maxwell, Sarah Robbins, of course, which we're doing, Erica Worre, GoPro, and Millionaire by Halftime by Presley Swaggerty. So one of the things that I would suggest is that we can't always sit and just read a book, but we can listen, and we can't always just go buy a tape or a CD or watch a DVD, but we can go find YouTube. So I would suggest when you have time that your mind is not otherwise engaged, but maybe your hands are because you're doing dishes, driving, walking, stream YouTube. Just constantly look for new videos. Dr. Antonio is in the top 10 of sales YouTube channels. Tony Robbins, I'm like wondering where this guy has been all my life. He's amazing. And so that is something that she suggests spending time on. And it took her 2 years. So that's something that if we're not happy with where we're going, then we need to invest time in that. And everyone says that. The next thing we need to do, she says, is be willing to fail. Be willing to fail forward, which means doing stuff even if we're not sure that it's going to turn out, just for the experience, just for the learning. There's the saying that you either win or lose, but really it's you either win or you learn. So we want to turn those experiences into learning experiences. Hold on, you're going to see Finley. Okay, sorry. Now we're going to swing. Okay, so the next thing she says that is important for starting is being coachable. And that's something that the longer I do this, the more important I realize that it is. And it is, we have a system. We have an awesome fast start. We have the best compensation plan in the industry. And we have a system. Sarah Robbins has a great system. I have one for my team that's a little bit similar. Celeste is suggesting posting on Facebook immediately. You want me to hold that? And so the key is whatever system you choose, do it. Whatever system your team runs, do it. So, sorry, it just got dark there. Sorry about that. So, for example, the system usually is you join, you make a list, and you start contacting that list. You post on Facebook. Those are the kinds of things that they're talking about as far as the system goes. I have a PowerPoint presentation for my team that I want them to do. And so she says being coachable. So I have a lot of people that join my team that want to build an income, but when I ask them to do certain things, they may not want to do it. And so being coachable is huge, because when I ask someone to do something, it's not because I've come up with something, it's because people who actually know what they're doing have come up with something. So being coachable is huge. And she said that was her success, was being coachable. The next thing she said was being committed to, you set your goal, whatever it is, that's individual, but deciding to stick to it, deciding not to give up until you reach it. She says that the cure for whatever ails you in business is personal activity. So rather than, well, if it didn't work out, you know, I tried a few things and it didn't work, so I'm going to blame the compensation plan, or I'm going to blame the industry, or I'm going to blame my teammates, whatever the case might be. She says, rather than playing the blame game, focus on what you have control over, which is your personal activity. So that I thought was really awesome. Helps me to have a good perspective. The next set of things that she talks about are things that are good for leaders to remember. When we first start out leading, we aren't responsible, and we can't love somebody more than they love themselves, is a phrase my husband says all the time. And so we can't help them more than they want to progress. Excuse me. And so what we can do is we can provide them with a great start. We can make sure that we ask their goals from the beginning. Sarah Marvel says that. Find out what they actually want rather than assuming your goal is their goal, because it may not be the case. So individually ask them what their goal is, so that then you know and your expectations are set, and you don't end up frustrated when they aren't reaching for diamond because their goal maybe is just to get their products for free or just to get the discount. So that's the first thing, is make sure that they are off to a good start. You know, we each have our own system of what we like to do. The thing is to come up with a system that's duplicatable, that's replicable, so that when somebody on your team signs a new ambassador, they know exactly what to do next. I even have a document that says, I just signed a new ambassador, what to do. So something like that. The next thing is, sorry, I have to turn the page on my notes. This is actually my first team call I've ever done, so you'll have to bear with me. So one of the things she says about recruiting and prospecting and spending time talking to other people about the opportunity and about your products is that you're not just looking for someone. You're looking for someone who is like you and are committed to reaching a goal. And so that's who you want to attract. That's who you want to join your team, is somebody who is going to match your level of commitment. And we can't always know that from the beginning. And so that's why she says you need to work through the numbers. You need to talk to as many people as you can, and sign people up and give everyone that same great start, and then match their level of commitment. The people that have your level, that are matching you, you'll know to invest the time in. The people who, you know, just aren't matching what your level of commitment, then you know to reach out to them as a group, not individually, because that then becomes kind of a drain on your efficiency. And efficiency is producing the same quality of work in less time. That's what's great about network marketing, is that's what we're doing. we are giving our full effort, but not our full time. And so that gives us time freedom. So we don't want to waste our time working with someone individually who is not committed. That's a great opportunity for a team page. The other thing that she talks a lot about, I also listened to a call with Deb. Oh, I'm going to say her name wrong. She's up in Maine. She was on Rock the Pink Live a couple weeks ago, and she was talking about making phone calls. Sarah Robbins talks about making phone calls. And so one of the things that she said, I know it's really grainy because it just got dark. The lights just went out where I am. Sorry, guys. One of the things that she says is phone calls. She will contact somebody via Facebook or an email. She will, if they respond, then she'll send them a video. Then she will follow up and ask to have a phone conversation with them. And that way they can hear the enthusiasm in her voice rather than trying to get that to come across in a Facebook message, which is really difficult. And if people are busy, they may not want to go through and read an entire novel on their Facebook Messenger. Hold on one second. I'm going to go to where there's more light. That's a little bit better. Okay, so chapter 2 is just believing in network marketing. And really what I wanted to talk about is she says again that we need to take time to develop proficiency. And one of the things that I am working on, and again, sorry for the quality of the video, is that we need to practice the phrases that we hear that seem to work for us. So for example, when we hear phrases or we read them in Sarah Robbins' book, we need to say them into our voice memo often enough on our phone, often enough that they sound natural coming from us because we kind of own those phrases now. They are us. So that's something that I'm working on. So, okay, I found the light and you can see my nice glistening face from taking my walk. And again, so she says, success begins with a decision to be successful and a commitment to seeing it through and deciding not to quit. And I love that. We all want to be successful, but she says you have to make a decision to be successful. You have to have commitment. And the way to ensure that your commitment lasts, the way to ensure that you reach your goals is by setting up systems for daily work. Your daily method of operation that we talk about. The thing that I like the most is the Magic 10. I think that's the easiest to me. Sarah Robbins says, 5 leads a day keeps, something rolling my way, probably cash or leads or whatever it is. Some people do 5, 3, 1. Whichever system works best for you, the Magic 10 is easiest for me to remember. That's what we need to do. That's our system for ensuring that we are committed because we work on that. We have the system in place every day. Okay, so we're going to move on and we're going to move to chapter 3, which Polly Bauer spoke on this at a convention, and she called it, Sarah Robbins calls it thinking like a CEO. Polly Bauer calls it CEO Think. So there's 3 things that we have control over that affect our business. The first one is our mindset. We need to make sure that this is not just a hobby, that we treat it like a business. There are lots of people who like the idea of having a second income, but they're not ready. They're not ready to treat it like a business. They're happy to post on Facebook every once in a while and hope that will get their results. And that may get the results that they're looking for. The next thing is she talked about being purposeful in your thinking. She talked about the power of a positive attitude, positive affirmations, positive declarations. Rainey Anderson, I guess now, she just did a Going for Gold video a couple of weeks ago. And she talked about, she wrote in her, sorry, it's dark again. She wrote in her calendar that I'm in the process of going for gold. And so because she's going for gold on her second level, or her second line, business, I don't know, drawing a blank right now. Anyway, so she's going for gold also. And so she put that, I'm in the process of. And so that's a really positive way to look at things. It sounds much better than, for example, me. I've been silver for 14 months. I'm in the process of going for gold. Sounds much more exciting to me. The next thing is we have control over our time management. I talked about that earlier, about making our calendar reflect what we're spending our time on, our priorities. Tony Robbins has video after video about his RPM, which stands for results driven, purpose focused, massive action plan. And so what you do is you say the results. What do I want? What results am I looking for? What is the outcome? Okay, and then you talk about the purpose. Why do I want to do this? And he says there's a big difference between why do I have to do something and why do I want to do something. And then the last one is massive action. And the more frequently we do this, the more momentum we'll gain. So we want our calendar to be driven by that concept. And we could watch a ton of videos, and I suggest you do if you have questions. I've watched a lot of videos and sat down actually and created my calendar and my to-do list based on his system. The next thing we need to do is control our emotions, and that kind of comes into the power of positive thinking, because it can be a roller coaster when things are going really well, or when things don't go so well and we get frustrated, and we may feel disappointed. And so rather than focusing on our disappointment, Sarah Robbins suggests focusing when you feel disappointed to remind yourself of why you're doing this. And so that's why a well-crafted why is important. It's been talked about every week in this training. And she says a lot of people skip this step. And honestly, the first time I read her book, I skipped that step. I was like, I don't have time for that. I need to make money. And probably I should have done it then, but I didn't, because I kind of had an idea, well, I want to have enough income not to stay home, or to get to stay home, not to have to go to work. Anyway, and so I should have thought about it more when I was first starting, but it didn't. It seemed kind of fluffy extra, and it really isn't, because that's what we hold on to, and that's what can inspire us when we need, when we feel, disappointment or frustration. So what she says is for, and then developing an entrepreneurial mindset that, this is your company. It's up to you. You have freedom, but you also have responsibility. She says to implement systems, and that allows us to be prepared so that we can be purposeful when we do actually sit down to work. And she says that when she has somebody start, she asks them to commit 10 to 15 hours a week in revenue generating activity. And so that's in your magic 10, but that could take the form of meetings, trainings, phone calls, lunch dates, coffee dates. It could be posting on Facebook. It does not include checking up on Facebook. And that's something I'm really getting away from, is spending my time checking Facebook. I need to check Facebook so I can engage with people who are not Plexus, so that I see their posts and they see mine. But beyond that, I'm trying to get off of my phone and or off of the app side of my phone and use my actual phone. That's the thing, that in this day and age, a phone call is so rare. And so that's what I'm actually working back up to, is getting on the phone and having conversations with people, not a text message, not an email, not a voicemail. Sometimes I do try and do voice messages because I can't always get a phone call. I don't always have people's numbers. Yikes.
Wow, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm totally fine.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah, okay, I see myself now. So anyway, I was just checking my time and my phone slipped. So she suggests making phone calls. Let's see, Magic 10 follow-up. Okay, as far as time goes, she says, say no to things now so you can say yes to things later. Making short exchanges so that then we can say yes to long-term fun, long-term, reality of our dream. So I thought that was really great. And sometimes we struggle with it because there are meetings and we're like, oh, our kid has a basketball game. or, you know, soccer game, whatever the case might be. And sometimes we don't want to miss out on those things. And well, I understand that because my oldest only has 2 school years left here. You know, at some point I have to sacrifice one more soccer game to get to a meeting. You know, I have to sacrifice. I may have to pay a babysitter because my husband's not home. And the key is we need to help our team members be willing to do that. They need to be willing to give up 2 hours a month to have a meeting, because it's so much more efficient to take 4 people to a meeting and be able to get off, you know, 4 people you've given the business opportunity to, the products to, and training if that's an ambassador there. And so you get so much more done in that 2 hours than if you tried to have meetings or phone conversations with those 4 people individually. So we need to be willing to sacrifice sometimes and know what we're willing to sacrifice. You know, a soccer game here, you know, whatever it is, a bedtime there, bedtime stories here, you know, once a month or however the case might be, it's going to be okay because it will net more long-term benefits for our children. That's actually something I've been talking with my mom about, is that if you reach Emerald, you can will your distributorship to your next of kin. And so all of a sudden, it's not only blessing your children, it's blessing your grandchildren. And I think that's huge. So that's something I've been talking with my mom about, that she needs to talk with her friends. Okay, you're not interested for yourself, but what if you can build this and it's a source of income for your grandchildren?
Celeste, yes, Celeste's great grandchildren are going to really love Plexus still.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing that, you know, I hadn't really thought about that before. You know, I knew that, like, if your husband's your downline, then you can have, you know, when they get taken out of the picture for whatever way, that, you know, revenue goes to you. And there's an ambassador that her husband passed away, and she receives his Emerald distributorship. And so that's really great. So let's see, team culture. That's the other thing she talks about for leaders, is once you join and you know you want to build a business, you have to start thinking team culture, not just, hey, I'm going to have a bunch of people and we're going to do some stuff. It's how are we going to run things, and what kind of team are we going to be, and spending time thinking about that. Okay, so she talks about the why. She says that sometimes your why is too big. Okay, I know for Taryn, I know for me, for you know, for other people, we really want to take this business and go all the way with it. But that's a big elephant to try and eat in one bite. So we need to break that down into smaller, more achievable goals. And she says that goals are dreams with deadlines. And so she says, you know, each month come up with what promotion or bonus or trip you're working towards, write it down, and then develop an action plan of what specifically will need to happen that month, and whose help you're going to need with it. I'm going to wrap up because it's almost, I have about 5 minutes left, maybe 10, probably 5. So daily activity, like Sarah Marble, when she was going to go Emerald, she figured out that she needed 5 pay points every day for however long that was to reach Emerald. That I feel like is really difficult, because that's a goal set on somebody else's use of their decision-making ability. That's called a lag goal. That's something that you are not in control of. A lead goal is something that you can determine, whether it's the go for no. I'm going to go for 10 no's this week, or I'm going to go for 20 no's. You know, really, we want to make goals based on what we have control over. You know, I'm going to invite a certain number of people. I'm going to hand out a certain number of sample packs this week. I'm going to hand out a certain number of business cards this week. And if we focus on those numbers of what we can do, that will start the momentum. The higher the number each day or each week, the faster the ball starts rolling. So that's something else that we want to consider. Something that she said is definitely making sure you can track it. Tony Robbins talks about the same thing. If you want to improve in something, you need to be able to measure it. So track your action, which is something I haven't been doing. You know, I have goals, but I don't track it. So track it. Come up with a form, however you want to do it. I know people have come up with forms for the leadership retreat credits, you know, and that may work for you. Okay, we have 10 minutes. So the last thing I wanted to say is she had somebody who wanted to recruit a lot of people, basically Fast Start Gold. They made 80 phone calls in one weekend. After that 80 phone calls, then they set up 2 full days of back-to-back 3-way calls, and that netted her 18 people joining her team. So that's the kind of numbers that we may have to be willing to do. If we want our team members to go fast start, you know, we need to make sure they understand and that we're willing to support them in making that many phone calls. I would suggest sending a text first. That's what Eric Worre says. Sending a text and saying, hey, can we talk about this? I'd like to show you what I'm doing. The last thing, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Sarah. Real quick, who was that said, was it Sarah Robbins that said that about the
80 people?
Yes.
Yes, that was Sarah Robbins.
I didn't remember that. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, Sarah Robbins said that. The last thing she talks about is building a healthy customer base as far as starting out. She says that building a customer base at the beginning is what is going to give you money now. It's supposed to tide you over until your team builds. So our end-all be-all is not customer base. Once we get customers, we want to keep them happy. She says treat them like royalty and they will give you their loyalty. But the end-all be-all is actually going to be building a team. If our goal is more income and time freedom, then we need to build a team because that leverages other people's work and we get paid fractionally for it. So the last point of chapter 4 is to do what you can to build a healthy customer base, give away samples, have events, and as we do that, then that will prepare us for recruiting and building a team. So anyway, that's pretty much our time.
That
So
was awesome.
I hope that helps, and I know it was really fast. It may take more time to kind of go through it and take notes, but anyway, I guess I will let you guys go.
Thanks so much, Sarah. I took lots of notes, actually. I'm going to go back into the chapters that I've read. I hope y'all are highlighting and kind of taking notes as you go, you know, with your book as well. So
Okay.
thank you so much, Sarah.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Y'all have a good
Thank
night.
you, Sarah.
You too. No problem. Bye.
This stuff